here is a massive cement structure that's 100 feet deep, 100 foot deep cement foundation. And then in addition to that, the foundation is surrounded by 200 circular caissons, and caissons are huge cement-filled cylinders, and those are bored an additional 100 feet below the 100-foot concrete structure, and then those are set in solid bedrock. So that's obviously a pretty solid foundation, 200 feet down and attached to solid bedrock. But we obviously have something much, much stronger available to us. If you would, turn your Bibles with me to Luke chapter 6. Start in verse 46. Jesus Christ here speaking. Why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? Whosoever cometh to me and heareth my sayings and doeth them, I will show you to whom he is like. He is like a man which built an house and digged deep, and laid the foundation on a rock. And when the flood arose, the stream beat vehemently upon that house, and could not shake it, for it was founded upon a rock. But he that heareth and doeth not is like a man that without a foundation built an house upon the earth, against which the stream did beat vehemently, and immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. So we see in this very first verse, in verse 46 here, that there are, of course, those that declare that Christ is their master with their mouths, but deny him with their actions and their lives. A disciple's behavior must be consistent with his or her stated commitment. The difference between a life that can withstand spiritual storms and one that cannot depends not just on whether one comes to Christ and hears his words, but also whether one acts on his teachings. And again, his teachings. A lot of times, I think we build our foundation on what maybe we think in our minds is God. It's not really the God of the Bible. In verse 48, Christ said that to build a strong house, we must dig deep into the rock. Dig deep and lay the foundation on a rock. In the world, there are places where bedrock is exposed. You don't even have to dig down. There's no earth covering it. There's just bedrock right there. And of course, there's places where the bedrock is deep, deep beneath the surface. Based on our experiences in this life, in this world, and the situations that we are in, we each have different things to dig through to get to the rock. Some of us have to dig further than others. For some, there are less barriers, and the bedrock is easier to reach. Each and every follower of Christ has a different experience in our walk with him. I think that's something that is important to remember, is that we're all coming at our Christian walk from different places. All of us here are from, we're all gathered here together in Streamwood, Illinois, but we're from different places. I mean, Dave's from Chicago, I'm from the suburbs, and Sister Velma's from Wisconsin, and Wes is from all over the place, and we're all from different places. And then, of course, even inside of where we're from, there's so many different things that shape our view and the values that are placed inside of us. So each and every one of us has a different route. But it's important that we remember when we see a brother or sister maybe taking a slightly different road than we did, that it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just they're coming from a different place. But we must dig. When we're laying this foundation, we're looking for the rock. We must dig through all of our past sins, all of our idols, all of our biases, all of our traditions, all of our philosophies, our families, our friends, our jobs, our possessions. We have to dig beyond all of these things until we get to the rock of God. Sometimes it seems like, as Christians, that we build uneven foundations. Instead of digging down to bedrock or the entire structure, we might dig down in maybe one corner. And then the rest of our foundation, we dig just deep enough to have it set on upon earthly things. But that house will also fail, even if just we dig down a little bit into one portion of our lives. Our entire life, our entire house must be built on the rock. You turn with me, 1 Corinthians chapter 3. 1 Corinthians 3, verse 11. For other foundation no man laid than that is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Now if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If any man's work abide which he hath built thereupon, he shall receive reward. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. So we see here, this is something we've talked about many times. Our foundation will be tested. We know this. We are guaranteed that we will face trials in our life, right? I know it's not necessarily the most upbeat thing to hear when we come to church, but it's a fact of the Word of God. The Word of God promises us essentially that we will be tried, we will have difficult days, and that is part of life. You know, so you could build a house here on this earth, and maybe you're careless with design. You build a really poor foundation, and you could be blessed in building your location where a storm never comes through and your foundation is never tested, and it stands at least for a little while. Eventually, it'll probably settle and crumble to some extent, but that's not going to be the case in our lives. Where the Word of God tells us that our spiritual foundation will be tested. When we hear the storm is coming, I was just talking to Wes, we've had quite a few storms this summer, just in the last month or so. When we hear the storm is coming toward our earthly house, we make preparations. We make sure that our house is prepared for whatever the storm may bring. In our spiritual lives, we don't know when the storm will be. You know, like when we have a tornado warning, it's pretty clear, you know, exactly when it's going to be for the most part. But it's not that way in our spiritual lives. We don't know when the storm is coming, so we must be prepared at all times. Similar to how buildings in earthquake-prone areas must be built to a stringent code and contain extra reinforcements to brace the structure for the inevitable quake, we must prepare our foundations for a testing that is coming at an unknown date. Back in 13, we read that every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. Storms have a way of revealing what our foundation is. After a tornado rolls through, people, cameramen, and news media walk through and inspect the damage. They observe the houses, and much can be learned about how well they were built in the manner of construction based on what is left after the storm. And the same is true in our lives. Storms will come, and when they do, the strength of our foundation will be laid bare for all to see. If our foundation is gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, it will be made manifest. And I don't have time to go through it in this devotional today, but I do think it's important that we note that in that list of things that can be built upon other than the true foundation, the true rock, God, Jesus Christ, you know, we start up at gold and it goes all the way to hay and stubble. So things that are extremely valuable to things that are not valuable, it doesn't matter which one it is. If it's earthly material, it's all worthless when it comes to our foundation. And this is a misconception, I think, sometimes, or maybe not a misconception, but it's something that people get hung up on when we say from the Word of God. And when Christ said to people, you must follow me wholly, you have to turn away from your family and your friends and follow me. And people find that to be a harsh truth. I find that to be a harsh truth sometimes, to be perfectly honest with you. And, family and friends, in my mind, I would put that in the category of gold. Those are good, beautiful, precious things that God has given us here to enjoy on this earth. But they're still earthly things. And if we're building our foundation upon it, it will be laid to naught. And it's not just God that will see the results when our foundation is tried. The lost world watches. Those that say, Lord, Lord, they watch closely in a storm. They're checking out how your foundation will hold up. And sadly, many times the foundations of those that say, Lord, Lord, don't hold up any better in the storm than of those that make no claim to Christ whatsoever. We have a perfect foundation available to us. But we have to roll up our sleeves and do some work. And I know the word work scares us as Baptists a little bit, but digging deep, as Christ said in the parable there, is difficult work, and it must be done. We must dig past ourselves, all of the nonsense of the world, all of our idols, all of the other things we place trust in, our jobs, our homes, our retirement accounts, our nation, our traditions, our church membership. All of these things are that gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble. They have varying degrees of worth, but all are worthless as a foundation. We must dig deep and lay our foundation on the rock. And when the storms inevitably come, stay fastened to that rock. Again, in a tornado like we've had recently, when a tornado is coming, we seek refuge in the strongest part of our house. And so it is also in the storms of life. When the storms come, let us cling to our foundation. Now that means you had to have built that foundation. And if it's fastened to the rock, then you'll be good. People cling to their foundations when the storm comes, but sadly for some, including those that are saved, their foundation is not God. And you see that in what they flee to in times of crisis. Again, we have available to us a foundation that the gates of hell, as Christ said, shall not prevail against. Dig deep and build your foundation on it. Mom, if you come, play piano for us, sing our Spirit and Truth hymnals.